We got that going for us. So just a little about me, my education and my background. Quite a younger me, but yeah, I went to Poway High School. I was class of 2008. As you can see, I was on the wrestling team at Poway. I'm definitely a proud Titan, and I loved my time there. My coaches were awesome, Coach Brandstetter and Coach Myers. I definitely attribute a lot of what I personally am today to my kind of experience there at the wrestling team. So love those guys. And then for college, I went to Cal State Fullerton. I got my BAs in finance and accounting. As Jamie mentioned, I never actually have used those for their specific purposes, but I'll touch on that in just a second. For Fullerton, we are also the Titans. So I went from being a Titan to still a Titan. So that was kind of my my education background. So I'm gonna talk a little about my career, but before I talk about my time at Red Bull, I'm actually gonna go back to the beginning and kind of how I got here in the first place. So for me, I was very, very good with numbers all throughout my younger years. Numbers always have come easy to me. I always kind of aced my math classes. And so I kind of naturally thought that I wanted to go into finance and accounting and work in that industry. And I did my first few years of college working on those degrees. But what happened was I actually took an internship at Surfer Magazine. And it was an internship in event marketing. And at the time, I had no idea that, what to expect in that role. But it really turned out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. It kind of showed me another side to my career that I could pursue. I was really passionate about it. As a general aside, you'll see this about me in a moment, but I love action sports. I did it all growing up. So the opportunity to work on something I was passionate about, but also to work in marketing where I could flex my creative muscles, just turned out to be a match made in heaven. And that really kind of changed the course of my career from there. I ended up finishing those degrees in finance and accounting, but I kind of continued my career in marketing from there. So after that internship, I had a great experience. And then I went into radio, actually worked in radio for about a year and a half. I had a couple of local LA stations called K-Rock and AMP, which are pretty big stations up here. I was a marketing assistant. So I helped out all around Los Angeles doing that. And then after college, I actually went into the magazine business for a set of action sports magazines called Transworld. Some of you might remember. So I did advertising in those. That was kind of my first cutting of my teeth in advertising. And then from there, I got the opportunity to go work for Red Bull. And that kind of takes us to where we are at these slides. So for Red Bull, I was a national advertising specialist. I worked on every event that you've ever heard of for Red Bull. So, there's just a few pictures from my phone there. That's a Red Bull Flugtag in Boston. 30 Days in LA was a huge music series here in Los Angeles. On the lower left, that's actually the Indy 500 where we did a Red Bull air race. So I had some great times. I worked on a lot of amazing events. I also worked on our national campaigns. So those Red Bull cartoon spots, if you guys have ever seen those, worked on those. And it was a genuinely great experience. I loved it there. I had excellent bosses that really mentored me and gave me a great experience. So that was my time at Red Bull. And then about 5 years ago now, I had the opportunity to transition into video games. So I went to go work on Destiny at Activision, and I came in as a consumer marketing manager. So I'll talk a little bit more about what I specifically do at Warner Brothers now, but consumer marketing manager was heavily creative focused. I used to say it's like anything that the consumer sees, that's what I worked on. So I did everything from our trailer work to our visual ID, like the box art, like you see there, to our digital ads, our social media presence, packaging, really anything to do with Destiny, the video game, from a creative perspective, I worked on. Which was a ton of fun. Video games is a very challenging, very fast-paced industry, but it's very rewarding too. You get to do a lot of work and you get a lot of ownership, and it was a great time. So, and then about 3 years ago now, I transitioned into Warner Brothers, where I've worked on Mortal Kombat for the last couple of years. And same thing, a lot of the responsibilities I had at Activision, I still have at Warner Brothers. So I did everything for our visual identity, like you see with the art, to our trailers. Even got to work with some awesome licensing characters. That's Arnold as Terminator in our game, which was a ton of fun to work with. But yeah, my responsibilities. I'll talk a little bit more about what I've done in my role as a global brand manager. So what do I do exactly? I get this question often because brand manager is one of those like nebulous kind of titles. So the first thing that I do is brand visual identity. So the best way I can describe that in the simplest terms is, what does our brand physically look like, right? So that can of Red Bull, what does, you can imagine, like at the very start of Red Bull, they had to figure out what the design of that can was, the logo, all that stuff. So I do that for the brands that I work on. Product positioning. So what is our key USPs? Our USPs is unique selling positions. So if you think about it that way, it's like, what do you want the consumer to take away? What makes your product different than every other product that's similar and like it, right? So identifying what are those things that people are going to latch on to and want to make them go buy that product. Audio and visual production. This is kind of the fun, sexier stuff, right? So you get trailers and ads and art and all that good stuff, and that's definitely all a part of it. Work with a lot of great agencies and studios that are really good at these things to help bring them to life. SKU planning. So how many SKUs? That's like the actual product, right? So how many SKUs? What content's in those SKUs? What price points to put those SKUs at? So that's a lot of market research to come up with those things. Our go-to-market strategy. So this is like the timing of everything, right? So when do we reveal? How do we go big at launch? How do we make a plan that's going to impact, break through the noise, all that good stuff. Packaging, obvious one, developing that physical box product that you see on the store shelves when you guys walk around Target and Walmart and GameStop, all that good stuff. Audience profiling, this is kind of the science of my job, if you will. So this is like identifying who our target audience is, who's the low-hanging fruit, who's the most likely people to buy. And then probably the most important thing is, where are there opportunities to grow, right? So looking at fringe audiences that might have that might have interest in our product, and how can we appeal to those people? Media planning, how do we best get our message in front of our target audience? So media planning is like where you actually see, our content. So whether that's like YouTube, or even a billboard at the side of the highway, or a TV commercial, or so on and so forth. So, which is just as important as the ad itself, right? I always say, like, the best creative, if nobody sees it, then it really doesn't matter. So media planning and creative kind of go hand in hand. Licensing. So the kind of general question here is, like, are there other brands we can partner with that can help us reach new audiences? So I gave you guys the example of Mortal Kombat, where we worked with Arnold, and Terminator brought him to our game because he was a great opportunity for us to kind of expand outside of Mortal Kombat's already very large audience. So same thing, there might be other opportunities that are more basic. So it's like you could work with like a Red Bull and get your ad on their can, right? And that helps grow awareness for what you're working on. Events, how can we deliver special once-in-a-lifetime experiences to our biggest fans? So events are really like a loyalty play. So that's like where you're looking to basically kind of touch the lives of fans and make them a fan for life. There's, especially for CPG brands that don't get those opportunities often, these kind of things can go a long way. And then, of course, I work on website and just email as well. So how can we continue to speak to our fans and keep them engaged with our brand? And so much more. The thing I always say about the brand manager role is, you really are the hub of the spoke of the wheel that happens on the marketing side. I work with every single team, from our product development team to the devs that literally work on our games, our PR teams, our social teams, our influencer teams, so on and so forth. You wear a very broad and widespread hat as a brand manager, but so there's lots of project management. I always say, if I could sum it up in 2 words, I'm a project manager. But it's a lot of fun. You get to really get your hands in everything in my role. So my advice, and I'll go through these one at a time. These are the things, again, if I could go back and tell myself this, these are the things I would tell myself. Internships. So this is kind of a dual prong thing. First of all, I suggest that you guys start right away. Even for me, I didn't start doing internships until it was like towards the end of my sophomore year, start of my junior year. And if I could go back in time, I would have started my freshman year. Honestly, do as many as you reasonably can and start right away. And 2 big reasons why I say this. Number 1, this will help you discover your passion. I will tell you guys, I took an internship in accounting as well. I didn't mention that, but I did. And I very quickly discovered that accounting wasn't for me. That was really, really important. I had to figure out what I wanted to do. I know I had a lot of friends growing up. I'm sure there's many of you that are like them, where they didn't really know what they wanted to do, right? And these internships are your way to figure that out. Like, truly, find internships that sound interesting to you and just give it a shot. Most internships are like 3 to 6 months or a year or less. So this is really a fantastic opportunity to taste test, and you're never going to be able to get in the door like this to so many companies any other time than here in college. It's really a fantastic opportunity that I encourage all of you to take advantage of. And then I'll also give you the harsh reality. The harsh reality is if you have aspirations to work for any major brand, major company, all of your peers that you're going to be trying to fight against to get that job, well, competing against to get that job, a little kinder, they're all going to have internship experience and job experience. So so in order to even have a chance at that job, like that paper degree is just not going to be enough. It just really isn't. And so I really encourage you guys to go after those internships of all varieties. Don't be scared to kind of try things that maybe you don't know if you'll like or not. Be close to the action. I'm sure some of these guys, the other guys you'll hear from on the phone, might say something about this as well. But you know, if you have aspirations of working in the entertainment business or gaming or you know, for me it was action sports as well. Choose a college that is near those types of industries you think you want to work in. Like I would tell you guys, if you want to work in entertainment, then going to the University of Kentucky might not be in your best interest. And that isn't to say that like I'm not downplaying those colleges, but if you have the option to be close to the industries you want to work in, I'd highly suggest it, because what's going to happen is you're going to be exposed to a lot more opportunities to work within them. And me being in Fullerton, like that was a blessing in disguise. I didn't even know I wanted to work in this industry, but it turned out that I got a lot of exposure through it and ended up finding my way into it. And I attribute a lot of that to being very close to the action. An open mind. So as kind of going back to that, what I was saying about internships, like don't be afraid to try new things. And I really encourage all of you guys to try to find your passion. And also very related, your passion can always change too. I can tell you guys, I mean, obviously I worked in action sports and then I made a transition into games. You know, your passions can always change. But what I really encourage you guys is, you know, to do successful in your career, you got to love what you do. It's practically a requirement if you ask me. So find the thing that really gets you excited. Like I've loved my career. I wake up every day and I'm motivated to get to work. I genuinely mean that too. I don't mean it as a cliche. So I really encourage all of you guys to find your passion, because you're going to do your best work if you're passionate about it. Develop hard skills. So not that soft skills aren't important, but hard skills can really separate you from your peers. And what I mean by hard skills, pick up hobbies. So for me, I'll tell you one thing that I did at my early outset is I honestly started taking classes on Photoshop. And I started also taking classes on Final Cut. So I was learning how to do Photoshop, how to make a video, how to edit a video, all of those things. And I was doing that independent of my college studies, right? These were just things that I was like, man, I want to get good at these things. I want to separate myself from all the people that are applying. And I will tell you guys that paid big dividends for me. I definitely landed jobs because of it. So I would encourage you guys to think about those ways that you can get additional skills that will separate you from your peers. Not that a college education isn't going to give you a lot, it will, but develop those skills on the side, those things that you can add to your resume that show you've got some skills to offer the company that maybe others don't. For applying and interviewing, so couple of things. This is just recommendations. Think outside the box and do the little things is my recommendation. So when I say think outside the box, I mean, think about ways to separate yourself. I can't tell you, I mean, I've employed people in my role. I really appreciate when I see resumes that are different. Not to say I don't, a typical written resume isn't good. Of course, those are always important. But when someone sends in a resume that is truly unique, like I get excited, like I want to talk to that person. And I'll give you an example of like an actual example of what I did. This was the resume that I sent to Red Bull, which is I basically photoshopped a Red Bull can into a resume. You can kind of see there, I got like my experience listed and my personal facts and all of those things. Granted, now don't hate on me. My Photoshop skills were a little rudimentary back then, but in any case, you know, this actually this got me in the door to get an interview. So I'd encourage you guys to do the same, like think outside the box of just your normal resume. And when I say do the little things, I mean like little things can be as simple as just dressing the part. Like I'll give you guys kind of a fun example. When I interviewed for my internship at Surfer Magazine, I actually showed up in like slacks, a nice shirt and a tie. I got in the door and I literally was laughed at. They were like, dude, this is Surfer. What are you doing wearing a tie into this building, you know? But at the same time, they also appreciated it because they could tell I was serious and I wanted it. And of course, I never wore a tie after that. So what I would encourage you guys is to like look the part, right? Perception is reality. If you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be seen as somebody who's serious about the job and a leader, like you should show that you want it, both in your decorum with your dress, but even in the way that you speak. Those little things really can separate you, I assure you guys. Network. So these industries are small. I'm sure the rest of these folks in this chat will tell you. I mean, I can't tell you. It's like I feel like somehow, some way, I've been connected to everybody at every company. Every opportunity to expand your network is important, and on top of that, never burn a bridge, and always take opportunities to sharpen your skills, especially your soft skills. I know networking is a word that's thrown around a lot, but it really is important in these industries. Like you will work with people, and then they will show up again in your career. I promise you, it's happened to me many, many times. And then finally, this is the old adage, but I have to emphasize it. Work hard. One of my overall advice here is become a pro and care the most. This goes back to, again, finding that passion. If you really are passionate about it, then you're probably going to do those things anyway. But that's what I've always prided myself on in my career, right? When I came on to Destiny, I knew nothing about Destiny, but damn, I committed myself to it, right? Like I learned everything about that game. When I worked at Red Bull, there was lots of things I didn't know, but I really committed myself. And that's not just like being a pro at your specific thing that you're looking to work on, but stay up on news and trends. Like I start every morning just by looking at what's happening around marketing, what's happening that's new, what's happening that's interesting. What are some learnings that I can take as a marketer, but even maybe pass on to my team, right? That will make you look like a thought leader and somebody who's going to be trusted to take on major projects. So I just encourage you guys, stay up on news and trends, especially the world that we live in today. Man, even what I was doing 5 years ago is entirely different than what I'm doing today. And that's because the speed of information, the speed of technology, the speed of just how things are advancing. I mean, look at right now, right? We're on Zoom calls. So it's just, this is the world that we live in now. And I really encourage you guys to just stay on top of what's happening. You'll be smarter. You'll be smarter and more capable because of it. Because I will tell you, a lot of people don't do that extra work. So that's my overall advice. And I'll just leave you guys with this last thought. The quote goes, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? And I truly aspire to that. I mean that. That's me as Sub-Zero is literally less than 10 years old. I snowboard and I do skateboarding in my free time. I go to music concerts. It has been the joy of my career to work in industries that were inspirations for me growing up. And I want to give back to them. I want kids like myself to be inspired, to go big, to, dream big. That's, like I said, keeps me going every day. I still feel very passionate about what I do. I hope all of you guys can find something in your career that you can say the same about. So that's my spiel.
Our next presenter is Michael Rennie, and he is the president and CEO of Poway OnStage. It's a not-for-profit that books national and international touring talent at the Poway Center for Performing Arts. And Mr. Rennie has been with Poway OnStage since 2003. Prior to that, he held art management positions at the Old Globe Theater, the Arizona Theater, and a theater in Florida. So Michael, thank you so much for being here. And I'll pass the mic to you.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me? Am I happening?
Yeah, you can hear you loud and clear.
Matt, that was a great presentation. I'm not going to give you all much advice because I'd pretty much just be echoing all of the things Matt shared with you. But yeah, my name is Michael Rennie. I'm the CEO and president for Poway OnStage. Do I understand that most of the students on this call are from Poway High, from all over the district?
All over the district. We have 5 high schools here.
So I suspect at least the folks from Poway High are familiar with the PCPA. We're that large building on the corner of your campus. And that building is home to a wide variety of performances, many of them for the school district, many for community rentals. But I work for the not-for-profit that books the nationally touring acts. In recent year, we presented folks like Kansas and Art Garfunkel, the country group Home Free, ukulele phenomenon Jake Shimabukura. We've had Dancing with the Stars Chelsea Hightower and Anna Trebunskaya, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, Los Lobos, etc. I've worked as a not-for-profit arts administrator and presenter for about 30 years. And an arts administrator is basically somebody who works behind the scenes in the arts, largely in the areas of management, marketing, and fundraising. So I don't build sets, I don't design costumes, direct plays, or play music, but I do put on events, including plays, concerts, dance performances, comedians, etc. A lot of my time is spent doing the marketing and the fundraising to support those shows. As Jamie mentioned, I've previously worked in live theaters in Florida and Arizona and at the Old Globe Theater. But I've loved working in the not-for-profits, and I always like to clarify to people that working in the not-for-profits does not mean that you won't have a financially successful career. Being a not-for-profit really just means that your organization is mission-based. It means that the state of California has designated that what your company does is for the greater good of the community, and as such, they give you some tax benefits. So don't be afraid of that term not-for-profit. There are a lot of great careers in the not-for-profits. I've certainly enjoyed mine. I first got interested in the arts when I was growing up in small town Florida. And, you know, I have to say that growing up here in Southern California, you really have an advantage if you have an interest in a career in the arts. Where I was growing up, the only working artists I ever saw were superstars. They were movie stars that I'd see on the big screen, or television stars, or rock stars. I didn't really live in an area where you could see working artists making their living day to day working in the arts. I first got started in arts administration, like I said, at a small theater in Gainesville, Florida, where I attended the University of Florida. I did an internship. I was going to school for a degree in journalism, but I also had a passion for live theater. So opportunity for me to use my writing skills, my graphic design skills, and my passion for storytelling to help people learn about the programs at the theater. I had also had some experience in radio production and television production. So after I graduated, I had an opportunity to go into arts administration. And for me, it was a great combination of a lot of things that I was already passionate about: storytelling, writing, television, radio production, graphic design. It gave me a chance to combine all of those skills in the service of promoting something I was passionate about, live theater. Sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I do have some notes off to the side. The other thing that I discovered in working in arts administration is that, you know, I got to work with a lot of artists at different levels. So in addition to the performers that I might put on stage, I got to work with advertising professionals and graphic designers, work with lighting and sound artists when we were producing shows, as well as videographers and events planners. So for me, a career in arts administration gave me a chance to work with like-minded, creative people, all toward a common goal of doing something great. I don't have a presentation nearly as slick as Matt's, but I did want to show you a couple slides. This is the interior of the Poway Center for the Performing Arts, if you've not seen it. It's an 800-seat theater owned and operated by the city of Poway. And it is impeccably maintained, has stellar acoustics, and is a great place to see a show, especially smaller shows where the performers really want to connect with an audience. If you've not driven by it, this is what the exterior looks like. We're right there on the Titan Way and Espola Road. Again, most of you kids in Poway are well familiar with this building. And, you know, just a couple snapshots of me rubbing elbows. That's me with the Chelsea Hightower and Dimitri Chaplin from Dancing with the Stars. Here I am with Roseanne Cash, daughter of the legendary Johnny Cash. Melissa Etheridge was on our stage just last fall of 2019. That's Anna Gasteyer from Saturday Night Live. Might be a little bit ahead of your time. There I am backstage with Los Lobos. Here I am with Chris Hillman of the Birds. So you get to meet a lot of interesting people and hear a lot of fun stories. And, you know, I've just always had a passion for connecting people and artists and audiences and artists. And for me, a career in arts administration has done that in spades. I did write down a couple of bits of advice. And again, just to echo some things Matt said, internships, anytime you can get an internship, it's absolutely great. Be prepared to do work that you might not immediately associate with the type of business you're interning with. You know, for instance, we are presenters of performing arts, and on show nights, we get to rub elbows with the stars and have a lot of fun. But on Monday morning, you know, we may be laundering linen and entering email signups into a database. You know, it's all part and parcel to the job. So So get those internships, but be ready to do the, for lack of a better term, grunt work. You'll appreciate it in the end because it really does teach you the skeletons of the organizations you'll be working for. Also, as you go off to college, take that class you don't think you're going to need. I was forced to take a class in economics when I was an undergrad, and I never wanted to take a class in economics, and yet I'm better for having done it. It was a different language than I ever would have taught myself, and I'm just able to converse with people on subjects that, you know, had I not been forced, quote unquote, to take such a class, I just wouldn't have those skills. So be generous when you're considering those classes that you might not feel ever need, because they could come in handy down the road. Follow your passion, the money will follow. You'll be much happier doing a job you love for a little less money than if you just take a job you hate for supposedly better money. You'll get where you need to be financially eventually, so follow your passion. And when you're interviewing, this is some advice people gave me years ago that has served me very well. Interviews can be very intimidating, but just remember, they work both ways. This is as much an opportunity for you to find out if this workplace is a good fit for you, as it is for them to find out if you're qualified. You are exactly as qualified as you are. You can't change that. But this is an opportunity for you to really connect with your interviewer on a personal level. Ask questions. Come into an interview prepared to ask questions. Do your research. Find out about the organization you're interviewing with, and that will inform some of those questions. There's nothing worse for me than to have an interview where I just sort of go down my list of questions, I get my answers, and there's nothing else. It really makes an impression on me when people have questions for me, because it shows me that they've really thought about the position. I look forward to answering your questions at the end of this. Thank you very much.
Our next presenter is Rick, and he's an animator. He's worked for various studios, including Disney and DreamWorks. I thought we could start off with a short animation video highlighting the 25 plus years that he's been an animator. And so here we go. I'm gonna share my screen. Can anyone hear that?
There's not sound in the very beginning. Now you're gonna hear sound now. There should be sound.
Got it. Thanks, Rick.
Yank down, boy, yeah, I got an aesthetically pleasing configuration of hair that humans go nuts over. The sea witch. Oh no, she's gonna. I got it. Ariel!
Run, Sparky. You'll find Bumper.
Nah, I ain't lost my sense of humor. See, I find that funny.
Okay.
So that's some of it. You can figure out I'm an animator just from all that stuff. So Anyway, basically, I mean, I'll just give you a little history of my career. I basically started when I was, I wanted to be an animator since I was about 9 years old. Maybe even before that. I saw Pinocchio when I was maybe 5 or 6 at the drive-in. And, I didn't know what animation was. I just loved what I saw. And I just thought, I don't know what that's called, but that's what I want to do. I want to do that. So I got home and I started writing, making my own little picture books and stuff based on Pinocchio. And just, since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a cartoonist and an animator. And where I grew up in Santa Rosa, which is in Northern California, Charles Schultz lived there. And he, of course, he did Peanuts. So he was like a real hero of mine. And as I got older, of course, back in those days, there wasn't a lot of books. There was no internet. And finding out how animation worked was really difficult. So when I was in high school, I went to see Charles Schultz, and I had a portfolio, and I left it with him, and he went over all my drawings and stuff and said, you really need to talk to the guy who does our Peanut specials, and his name is Bill Melendez. He does all the Charlie Brown Christmas and Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, all that stuff. He said, I'll give you his address and you can write him. So I wrote him a letter, wrote Bill Melendez a letter, and he said, well, you need to come down here and start looking for colleges, and there's Cal Arts that's down here, and there's a lot of other schools. So why don't you come down and we'll meet? So my parents drove me down after I think I was a junior in high school, and met with him, and he told us about some of the animation colleges. And of course there was Cal Arts, which was probably the best one, and there was also one in Canada called Sheridan. But there really wasn't a lot back in those days. And again, there was no books or internet on how animation works. So I just kind of taught myself. I got all the books I could get. I got books on life drawing and figure drawing and things like that, because I didn't really know. I didn't really have a lot of people showing me which path to take. So I had to do a lot of it on my own. Anyway, so I finished high school, and I moved to an art school up in the Bay Area, up in Oakland, for a couple of years, and then I moved down to LA. It was weird because I was a young person, I was very naive. My parents thought I was a little bit crazy because they didn't really understand how animation worked, even though my mom was a painter. She was a really great painter. But my dad was a businessman, and he was kind of like, I don't know how you're going to make a living drawing cartoons. And I said, well, there's a guy that lives up in the hill. Charles Schultz does Peanuts, and he's doing it. So, I figured that's an example of what it can be. It can be successful like that. So anyway, I just packed up all my stuff in my car. It was crazy, and just moved down to LA, got a job at a record store just to get a job. And then I just started meeting people. I found out where some of the animation studios were, and I went to see some of them and asked them what I needed to do to get into these, to work there. Ultimately, I wanted to work for Disney and be a Disney animator. I met an old Warner Brothers animator named Bob Clampett, and he really liked me. He really liked my artwork, and I did a film in college, in art school, and he loved this film that I did. So he started inviting me to parties, and I started meeting other animators. And I'm telling you, when I was about, maybe 20 years old, and I was really shy, but I just forced myself to meet some of these people and to try to get some advice from them, because I figured, I'm not going to learn anywhere else but talking to these guys. So I met a lot of pretty famous animators at the time, Chuck Jones, and of course Bob Clampett, Tex Avery, all these guys that were legends, back in the old days. And I, through meeting a few people, I got I guess you'd consider it like an internship at a place called Filmation, which Filmation ended up doing He-Man. But when I was working there, they did Tom and Jerry and Mighty Mouse and that kind of thing. And they were going to have a class, an animation class. And if you did really good in the class, they'd hire you. So I joined this class, and there was about 15 of us. And I get my assignment, I'd go home and had a little light box, and I just draw on, it was basically typing paper, and it was so crude, but that's all I had, So I would do these assignments, and then next week I'd go show the animator, what I had done. And anyway, they picked about 4 or 5 of us from this class, and I started working at Filmation, and that was my introduction to the animation world. And again, I was meeting more people, meeting older animators, younger animators. But I really wanted to work at Disney. So what I did was I was told I needed to really work on my life drawings and my serious drawings, not just the cartoons. So I took some art classes, after work, I would go to these art classes and try to get better at doing life drawings and figure drawings. And I just got a sketchbook and filled it full of sketches and life drawings. And I'd go to the park and go to the zoo every other day and just fill it up with drawings of animals and elephants and monkeys and just everything I could think of, just to fill a sketchbook full of these quick sketches. And I got a portfolio together. I sent it to Disney, and knowing I wouldn't get hired because I was told you're gonna have to do this 3 or 4 times because they're not gonna hire you the very first time they see your portfolio. And then I got a call from Ed Hansen, who was in charge of animation, said, hey, we really liked your portfolio. We want to hire you for the Black Cauldron. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, okay. So anyway, he goes, when can you start? And I said, whenever you want, I'm ready. And so I started in January of 1982. So my animation career is a lot more than 25 years, actually. If you do the math, just don't do the math. So anyway, I started at Disney, and that's when I really learned how to really animate. A lot of the old veterans who'd started on Snow White and Pinocchio were still there. And not a lot of them, just a handful, but I learned from that. They were called the 9 Old Men. And I learned a lot from them. They would have lectures, and I worked with really great people. I worked with Tim Burton and John Lasseter and John Musker and all these guys who went on to do pretty great things, but I just learned as much as I could. I just always wanted to be better and better and better than I was. And through them, I learned a lot. And I worked on some really great movies. You can see from my reel that I worked on some really great movies. And the thing that I sort of figured out was what I was best at. I think that's important for everybody to sort of figure out what's your passion? What are you best at? If you get into animation, do you want to do backgrounds? Do you want to do animation? Do you want to do storyboards? Do you want to do character designs? There's so many different avenues. And for me, I just wanted to animate, but I tried to figure out what am I really good at? I said, well, I'm really good at doing funny animation. I liked all the sidekicks. I love Jiminy Cricket and some of the sidekicks in all the classic films. And so I started gravitating towards the funny characters because I just felt, I don't think I'm a good enough draftsman to be animating the Prince or Ariel or Belle or, these realistic characters. I was better at the funny stuff. And the thing good about the funny characters was I could come up with some of my own gags. I'd get a script and read what the action should be. But if I had a better idea, a funnier idea, I would go to the director and say, I read this idea for Wilbur, and he lands at the airport, and I said, we should have him, he gets tripped by the bra trips him. Why don't we have him wearing the bra when he sits up? And they were like, no, we can't do that. That's in really bad taste. Anyways, you can see it's in the film. So, but just coming up with ideas and trying to make my character as memorable as I could and to make it come to life. And never knowing, we didn't think about years from now if people are still going to want to even see these films, but we just tried to put as much of ourselves into these characters to make them live and make them seem real. And so I think my strong suit was doing those funny characters and trying to come up with ideas that would make them memorable and make them kind of stand out in the films. So, and that's kind of what I've done. I mean, I was at Disney for 12 years. I went to DreamWorks and worked on 2 or 3 films there. I worked on the very first Shrek, which won an Academy Award, and worked on the Simpsons movie. I worked on the Rugrats movie. I worked on Curious George. I've worked on stop motion films doing hand-drawn, still doing hand-drawn, but 2D animation for the puppets for a movie called Box Trolls a few years ago. And I'm just finished doing some work for a film called Wendell and Wild, which is Henry Selick's Henry Selick directed Nightmare Before Christmas, and he has a new film he's working on. So I did some 2D animation for that. I just got finished going back to Disney and working on DuckTales. I did animation for DuckTales. So I've just, I'm continually trying to work, but as you can see, I like to draw. I like to do hand-drawn animation. And so even though the CG stuff is really popular and Pixar does these amazing movies, I feel my strong suit is to be doing drawings and to do hand-drawn animation. So even though I don't really work so much on paper anymore, I work mostly on the Cintiq, and I do digital animation using like TV Paint or Harmony. But it's just being able to adjust and grow, because the animation industry, like all the industries, are changing all the time. And you need to sort of keep up with those changes. The technical aspects are always changing. There's always new programs, and you need to sort of grow with that. And if you want to keep doing it, you have to sort of grow with the industry, whatever the industry is you're wanting to go into. I know we don't have a lot of time, but one of the questions was, if you're in high school again, what would you tell yourself? And I think I had a lot of doubts when I was in high school that I could do what this was going to be, be an animator. But I remember thinking, and my parents were saying, you need to come up with another idea that in case you can't be an animator, you can do something else, And so I thought about it really, really hard. And I said, you know what? There's nothing else I want to do. I can't think of anything that I want to do other than be an animator. And they said, well, okay, well, then you're going to have to really, really work hard, because there's a lot of other people out there. They're going to want to do it, and you're going to have a lot of competition. So I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to be the best I can be. I know there's going to be people better than me, but if I can be the best I can be, then I can't complain. So that's what I did. I just focused on being the best I could be. So I think what I would have told myself in high school is just try to have confidence, because I was very insecure, growing up, and a lot of artists we're very insecure. We think our work is bad, and no one's going to want to see this, and I don't fit in, and all that stuff, and I had a relatively normal childhood. I mean, I wasn't an outcast. I was pretty normal. I had lots of friends. I had girlfriends. I played sports. So I had a fairly normal childhood, but I still felt different than anybody else. I still felt like I was really odd. And when I got into animation, I started meeting other people that, oh, you used to do magic tricks when you were a kid. You have a ventriloquist dummy too? Oh, how about, so you start meeting people that are much like you. And so I say, oh, thank God, maybe I am weird, but there's a lot of other weird people around me. So I feel like I'm at home, But I think that basically, I think you just need to really follow your passion. This is something the other guy said, is if you're really passionate about what you want to do, you're gonna want to keep doing it forever. And you're not gonna let a roadblock stop you. You're gonna want to just go around that roadblock and just keep going. I mean, we all have moments of defeat and like, oh boy, we get turned down and rejected, and man, that happens to me all the time still. But I just believe in myself that, what, I'm gonna find that right thing. I'm gonna be able to do what I want to do, and I'm gonna work really hard at it and do the best job I can. And that's kind of the key. There's probably a lot more questions I could be answering on you, but if you guys want to ask me questions afterwards, that would be great. But I think just being able to adjust, and also I think with the other guy says, just try to get into animation somehow. Some people, when I got into it, you had to be able to draw. If you couldn't draw, you couldn't get in. Nowadays, you don't have to be a great artist, but you have to have really good ideas. You have to have some skills. Now, maybe you're not a particularly great artist, but maybe you have a good sense of production. You have your organizational skills are really good. Well, then maybe you want to be a coordinator. You can get into the production end of animation, which is what a lot of people do. You end up being a producer. You can be producing a lot of these films. So don't let whatever your drawbacks are, don't let that stop you. If that is your passion, if your passion is to be in animation or the arts, find a way just to get in there. And once you get in there, then you're in the door, and then now you can impress people with how hard you work, what great ideas you have, what makes you different from other people, what is it about you, what makes you unique that you can add to this environment in this workspace. What is it about you that makes you stand out a little bit? Maybe you work a little bit later than the rest of the people. Maybe you come in earlier. Maybe you work a little bit on the weekends. Maybe you come up with ideas and you present them to your boss on Monday morning. It's just a matter of being very dedicated. So having said all that, that's kind of my story and my advice for you. and again, well, I'm gonna give Jamie my email if you guys ever want to write me personally, just ask me some questions. I'm very happy to answer those. But I just think just try to believe in yourself. Don't let people discourage you. If it's your passion and what you really want to do, I guarantee you you're going to get there and you're going to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I feel like what you're saying is growth happens when you put yourself out there and you get a
Exactly.
little bit uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so
It's, what, you force yourself, because I was, like I said, when I was younger, I was really shy. It's hard to think of me being shy now. I've done a lot of these presentations, so I'm not as shy as I used to be. But you're young and you're shy and you don't feel a lot. But just kind of force yourself to talk to people, ask questions, write them down. If you want to email somebody, then do it that way. But don't be afraid to be vocal and put yourself out there.
Bio about you. Michael Damian is a director, producer, actor, singer. A few of his career highlights in no particular order: starring for a Broadway role in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Billboard #1 song Rock On, several other top 40 hits, starring role in Young of the Restless as Danny.
I come from a musical family. My mother was a concert pianist. I'm one of 9, 6 girls, 3 boys, and we all played musical instruments, sang, and we performed together as a band for many years. And so I really started in the music world. And then from there, I recorded a single when I had a hit single when I was 16 called She Did It. And I was on Young American Bandstand, which was a popular television show that artists came on to perform their songs. From there, on that show, the writers and producers of Young and the Restless saw me on the show. Now, keep in mind, I had not planned on being an actor. So that's why you always have to be prepared for the unexpected. And Young and the Restless called and said, hey, we saw you on American Bandstand. We want to create create a character. There's a singer, struggling musician trying to make it. And do you know how to act? And I said, of course I do. I'm acting right now. So I came in, met them at CBS, did a very short screen test. Before you know it, I was cast as the role of, the character Danny Romolotti. And I was actually, and what's so cool about the character is they said, you could do your music, we'll record you, you could do songs on the show, you can continue your music career, but, basically play a musician on the show. So it was a match made in heaven. And I was only going to play the character 3 months. And it was kind of a miracle, but because they only gave me a 3-month contract. And what happened was that summer, I guess it was just perfect timing. The show went #1 that summer. And so they said, oh, we need you to sign a 5-year contract. So, I was like, okay, well, as long as you let me go out on the weekends, they would let me out on Thursday to go on tour. So I would fly out Thursday, I would do concerts, Friday, Saturdays, fly back Sunday, back on Young and the Restless on Monday. And so I was doing that, recording albums. And then I got a call from Andrew Lloyd Webber, who, in case you don't know, Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, Cats, Evita, School of Rock, and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And he asked me if I wanted to play Joseph on Broadway, and it was a pretty amazing offer and thrill. And so it was a little tricky because I was on Young and the Restless. They figured out how I could do it. I continued playing the character Danny. They wrote it into the show. In fact, let me digress a little bit. As things were happening for Michael Damian, like let's say I had my record out, Rock On, that was #1 on the charts. My character Danny, they wrote it into the show. So my character Danny had a #1 record. So, and then Michael Damian gets offered to do Joseph. They wrote that into Young and the Restless. So Danny Romolotti is now playing Joseph on Broadway. So it was kind of art imitating life, life imitating art. Who's to say? But it was, again, always being ready for the unexpected. Practice, be the best you can. And it's amazing what can turn up. And those kind of things happened by just being there and working and showing up. And so then after about 20 years or plus on Young and the Restless, I left for a while, came back. And then my wife and I started writing and producing, and I wanted to direct. And so we started a company, a film company, and I wanted to start kind of or transitioning to the other side of the camera, because I just figured, as I get older, I just, thought it'd be nice to branch out and try different things. I always like, experimenting and working on different facets of what I'm doing in the media. Directing was a natural progression for me, from being on camera, working with crew, fabulous directors. All those years, I was always studying, observing, paying attention to what's happening, listening to the directors, and I learned so much. So I thought that that would be a really good transition going into directing, writing, producing. And so we started creating projects together. And Janine and I now are on to our 15th or 16th movie. And some of the highlights, we created the hit dance franchise called High Strung Free Dance, that's distributed by Disney and on Netflix. We had the #1 Christmas movie, A Princess for Christmas, that we found an actor named Sam Heughan, who's now the star of Outlander, which is pretty awesome, and Sir Roger Moore from James Bond. And then the most current film would be Christmas Waltz. Last year is a movie we wrote, produced, and directed, and that was also the #1 movie of all television last year. So that was pretty awesome. And we've got about 5 or 6 other films that are actually slated for the next few years that are ready to go. A lot of it happened. We wrote a lot during the pandemic. Whenever there's adversity and difficult situations and times, some wonderful things could happen. And we couldn't really go anywhere. So we focused and we did a lot of writing, and we were actually able to make a movie during the pandemic, being very careful and limiting people on the set, and just really following all the COVID protocols the best we could to keep the set safe. And we were fortunate enough to have made that movie, Christmas Waltz, with no problems. And so I think that's sort of a broad strokes of what I've been up to the last few years. But just really fortunate, really grateful. I've had some great opportunities, some great breaks, but again, it goes back to my parents, really, and great teachers that were, just really work hard, stay focused, don't get discouraged. Had a lot of doors closed, and it's incredible. We've had a lot of no's that we've turned into yeses. That's something also that people should remember. Just because it's no, it may be no at that time, but you could turn a no into a yes if you really believe in something or passionate about something. We've had several films that we've set scripts out. No, it's not. No. And then boom, it becomes the #1 film. A little backstory: when I recorded the song "Rock On," just to give you a little history, it's pretty funny. I sent the record to 10 record companies, and I got 10 rejection letters, and they all said the same thing. I'm sorry, I don't hear the hit. Sorry, it's not commercial. Sorry, it's not made well enough. It's not a good record. And then when the record went #1, I got 10 offers from all those labels saying, we really want to sign you to our label. And I'm so glad you re-recorded Rock On. It sounded so good. And like, no, that's actually the one I sent you. So anyway, they don't know. I mean, they know a lot, but they don't know everything. And you can't get discouraged, I guess is my point, and try to stay focused, positive. Easy for me to say because you can get discouraged, especially in the entertainment industry. It's very difficult, but I guess it's probably difficult in most every industry. If you want to reach the top and reach the #1 level, you just got to put in the work and the effort and perseverance.
One thing to remember is it only takes one connection. You just start with one connection, and that can grow into so many other things. Just that you don't have to know a lot of people. If you could just meet one person, and then they can recommend you to, just like Mike just did. Yeah. Let me share your stuff. And it's just a matter of starting at the very beginning with one person, and that's the first step.
There are a lot of smaller studios all over San Diego. As I was saying earlier, your internship might involve just cataloging things and filing things, but one thing I've noticed in the creative industry is that, people don't put out an ad for every job that comes along. people in the creative industry like to work with people they know they can rely on. So if you've got a reputation of being reliable, whoever you work for is going to recommend you to somebody else, and so on and so forth. So I know that's not really a short answer to your question of how do you get networked, but I think, to underscore what Michael was saying, out there, underscore what Matt was saying, be really good at what you do, be committed, don't slough off, and you'll get recommendations, and network with people. Because one thing I found in the creative industry is that, people who are young and unemployed now, they start to get employed and they remember each other, and that kind of rises. So yeah, make friends, do good work, and don't give up. Another quick thing I'll add is that I'm also an amateur musician, and I get pretty decent gigs. And often other musicians will come to me and say, well, how did you get this gig? And I'll say, well, I went to the venue, I asked for the booker, I asked how the booker likes to be approached, I asked them if they want me to send an email or if they want to be called, et cetera, et cetera. I just sort of ingratiated myself to them, but was also approached them like a peer. And then I did what they told me. I've had bookers say, I only do booking on Tuesday morning, so send me an email Monday night. And I've had other musicians come to me and say, how did you get that sweet, sweet gig? And I'll say, well, this is what I did. And you would be surprised how many times other musicians have said, that doesn't work for me. Or, they just don't like me, or some other sort of knee-jerk pessimistic response. You gotta remain positive, and you gotta remain tenacious, and
drawing and animation side of things. I wanted to know, kind of on the same line of stuff, what are some ways that you can get into like the internships or even like volunteering just to keep on making those connections?
You need to just contact all the studios, because some of them have intern programs, some of them don't. I would start with whoever you want to work for the most, start with them. And then just contact all the studios and just tell them you're interested in animation. Do you have an intern program? I'd love to be part of it. And then start from there. And I'm assuming I can tell from your little emoji that you're an artist. So, obviously you want to get in and draw. So, you can tell them that, just say, but I want to get in there and find out how it all works and all that. And you'll find a place. I mean, you just want to start somewhere. Obviously I wanted to be at Disney, that was my goal, but I wanted to start anywhere I could start. I didn't care. I wanted just to get in there. And once you get in there, you start asking questions and that kind of thing. So that's what I would recommend, is contacting all, you can go online and look at all their websites and stuff. And if you can get an actual phone, a phone number to call, somebody to talk to, that's the best thing. But send emails, but just try everybody really, and you'll eventually get in somewhere. You might have a choice, of 2 or 3 places that say, yeah, we would like you to come in here and be an intern for a while. So I think that's how to go about it.
Oh, and also, I'm sorry, I have like my bird in the background, but
that's okay.
Besides, so you would just go online and literally just search up, because I'm kind of at the same spot where I just want to get into it, because I guess, I don't know, like this whole animation and drawing, I know it's always been something that I've enjoyed,
right.
But I've kind of, without thinking, set myself up to being like, oh, I have to go to college, I have to get this business type job, that kind of everyone.
Yeah, you don't have to get a business. If you don't want to do business, don't get a business. Don't go try to get a business degree if you don't want a business degree.
Yeah,
that's my first great piece of advice. Don't go into a profession you have no interest in. This is the time when you're in high school to really, you can dream. This is a time for dreams, and just dream big and I want to be an artist. And so you need to sort of gear things towards that. Now, you may want to go to a college that has everything, that has a great art department, or you may want to go to just an art school if you're determined to be an artist and that's all you
Yeah.
want to do. But you're in the phase of your life right now where you don't have to make a decision. You can try different things. So I would suggest just really kind of looking around and see what your options are, but don't go somewhere where you already know you're not going to be comfortable there, because it won't work.
No.
Trust me, it's hard enough to do what you want to do than it is to do what you don't want to do. So my advice is to stick with, if you really want to be an artist, start right now. Start right now. Take drawing classes right now. Take drawing classes outside of school. There's in every town, and San Diego is a great place for it. It's a big enough city. They have lots of smaller art schools where you can just take classes and just sort of see where you want to go with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And just like for one last thing, I know that you said yourself that you're really into like the 2D and like sketching down type drawing. I'm like really the same with that, but I also I've been trying to touch into digital since everything is like really with technology nowadays. Do you have any like apps or anything that you would suggest for digital art?
You can do it. You can digitally draw on your iPad. I mean, you can draw anywhere. So it's not hard to do digital drawings. You just get the program, whether it's even like Photoshop. I mean, you can draw in Photoshop. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to just draw on a tablet. A tablet, or I wish I could show you my Cintiq, but I have like a 21-inch Cintiq next to my computer. I've got a drawing board over here with a disc, an old-fashioned, Disney thing with a disc and paper and all that. So I can do either one, but you can draw on your iPad. So it's kind of easy. I mean, it's not, just start playing around with it. Like when I started on the Cintiq, drawing digitally, I really didn't like. I wasn't comfortable with it. It's like, oh my, this doesn't feel like a pencil. It feels like a Sharpie. I'm not getting a pencil line. But you can adjust it and eventually get used to it. So, yeah, just start doing it. Just start doing it. There's a lot of different programs you can use. They're all free. A lot of them are free. Just start experimenting and just having fun. Michael talked about the voice acting thing, but from the storyboard aspect, you're very ambitious. You want to do a lot of different things. There's no reason you can't. I think storyboarding is a really specific skill that you have to really kind of work at. So I would spend probably a lot of time with that if you want to be in, get into the animation world. There you can take storyboarding classes. And I think when you start getting better at it, you're going to enjoy it more. Like if you're just trying to teach yourself how to storyboard, it's a little bit harder than if you have some kind of online class to help you. So I would sort of give a lot of your time to that. And there's nothing wrong with doing all that other stuff you mentioned, but I think storyboarding, good storyboard people are always in demand in animation. There will always be a place for you if you're really good. So that for sure can work. And they're not sending that overseas. A lot of the animation they send overseas now, but storyboarding is still done here. So if you can find a good online class or even an in-person class to help you with your storyboarding, I think if you start to get really good at it and understand it better, you'll like it better, and you'll probably want to spend more time doing it. Yeah. So, but I'll let Michael talk about the voiceover acting stuff.
Thank you. A lot of research. The internet's amazing. When we started, you guys, there was no internet. I mean, we had to do the old-fashioned way. We had to look in the phone book and make phone calls. It's terrible. I'm dating myself, but there's a lot of information, but there's also misinformation online. So be careful with stuff that's also you got to cross-reference and just check it out. Interning with a legitimate organization that is a bona fide organization, a physical recording studio that you know of, or a studio, those are legitimate, great opportunities. There have been interns, I've seen it at Young and the Restless, literally the people that took the people from the Price is Right line into the room. I went to France for 3 years. I came back, and one of them was a producer on Young and the Restless. I said, wait a minute, I know you. He's like, yeah, I was an intern. I'm like, wait, what happened? He's like, I got moved up to here. I got moved up to here. And then I'm now a co-producer on the show. So it can move fast, by the way. If you're in the right place, right time, prepared, really studying, and interning is really great. If you can get that experience on a movie set, if you can get it, I think it's fantastic.
Stand out.
What's that?
Said make yourself stand out.
Oh, my wife Janine, who's absolutely brilliant. Janine is.
I was just saying that make yourself stand out. If you have an opportunity to be an intern, be the best intern you can possibly be better than everybody else, and find ways of offering your services. And if there's something that you excel at, then push yourself in that direction. Let people know that you excel at stuff, and give yourself opportunity to move up, and it can really work for you.
Start somewhere. You can move around. You don't have to be locked into it. It can take you to another direction, and you might gravitate towards that and find something that really inspires you. Most important, you've got to be inspired. If you're just doing it to just be there, you're going to be miserable. You've got to be inspired. You got to feel passion for something, and you might change your passion. I went from singer to actor to Broadway musical to writer, producer, director. And, I didn't start out that way. I was like, I just want to play baseball. That's all I want to play, So be open and be inspired, get excited. Your energy, your excitement is going to inspire other people to want to work with you. This is wonderful. And I'm so happy that all hey, this is so cool that we all came from this same area and had big dreams. And it's so fun that we've been able to live some amazing journeys and have this wild ride in life, and it's still going. And you said it perfectly. You've got to keep learning. I heard a great director say, the minute I think I know it all, stop learning, I'm retiring. And that's fine, but just keep learning and keep growing and be nice to people. That's the one thing I got to tell you. Be nice.